If you are on Medicaid or help someone that is, or work with people that depend on it, then this is a video you don't want to skip. Hi, my name is Ladia, and I am a retired licensed financial professional with over 40 years in the financial services industry. And even though I've retired, I still enjoy sharing this information with you so that you can have meaningful conversations with your family and other financial professionals. Big Medicaid changes are coming, and it could affect who keeps coverage, what paperwork is required, and how often eligibility is checked. The part that worries many people is this, that they may lose coverage not because they no longer qualify, but because a notice may be missed, information may be incorrect, or they don't realize that they have an exception. And so today I'm breaking down what's changing, who may be affected, what work requirement could mean, and the steps that you could take now to protect your coverage and help someone else protect theirs. Some of the changes that you may have been hearing about Medicaid don't necessarily apply the same way you may think they would apply to an older adult applying for long-term care Medicaid. So, what has changed? The biggest Medicaid changes aren't just about regular health care, they also affect people that need long term health care in facilities such as nursing homes or some in home care or care that is provided throughout the community. A major change is that now some adults may need to renew eligibility much more often. And for those individuals that are connected to Medicaid long term care, those renewals are very important because the state may need to review your income, your living arrangements, to even make sure that you still need the long term care that Medicaid provides. So it's very important to respond to those requests for information for renewals in a timely manner so that it doesn't jeopardize the protection within your eligibility for Medicaid long term care. So, for families, the key takeaway is this: Medicaid long term care is a separate and complex area, and missing information or misunderstanding the rules can cause a delay in services and even put those benefits at risk. Beginning in 2027, certain Medicaid recipients may be subject to what's called a community engagement requirement. You may have also heard it referred to as a work requirement. And for those individuals that fall under this rule, we're talking about 80 hours a month of qualifying activities, which could include employment, education, job training, or community service. The important thing to remember is the 80 hours per month requirement, and that some individuals may already meet that standard through current work records or participation in other programs, while some individuals may need to provide documentation to confirm that they also meet those requirements. So you're probably hearing this as you are applying for long-term Medicaid for your 75-year-old mother. And I bet you're probably thinking, how in the world is my 75-year-old mother supposed to work 80 hours per month? Well, I thought the same thing too, and it just didn't make any sense to me. But just know that these new requirements are for certain individuals and that it does include exemptions. So, this is not to say that every person that is on Medicaid, including those individuals that need long term care for Medicaid, is going to suddenly have to work. However, if you're applying for Medicaid with help for long term care, Medicaid is still going to look at your financial situation. And that is another conversation because when Medicaid looks at your assets, your home may be an exempt asset when it comes to Medicaid eligibility. But just because it's exempt does not mean that Medicaid simply leaves it alone. One of the upcoming changes has to do with your equity interest in your home. And beginning January 1st, 2028, federal law changes the home equity limitation that's used in determining Medicaid long-term care services. The $1 million is the federal maximum home equity limit for non-agricultural property. States can select a lower limit within that range. It does not mean if my house is worth less than $1 million, Medicaid can't touch it. That's not what this means. What it's actually talking about is a provision with your home equity to help determine eligibility for Medicaid long-term care services. And there are other rules that still need to be considered. And that brings me back to something that I've already discussed in previous videos, and that is that estate recovery is not the same as Medicaid eligibility. And I want to really be clear on that because I think that's where a lot of people get confused. Because while your home can be exempt as you're applying for Medicaid eligibility, it can also come under estate recovery at another time. And that's where federal law seeks to have the states to look to be reimbursed for Medicaid long-term benefits that are paid to individuals that are 55 and older, and that's where they are using long-term care for nursing home, for in-home care, and for community-based services. So that is something that is still in what's going on with Medicaid. And there are also some other things that I've talked about, and that is a spend down program, that is a 5-year look back program. There are other considerations that are in there as well. When the home is exempt and that spouse is still living in the home, those exemptions can apply as well. There are exemptions for certain children with disabilities or children that are blind. Exemptions exist for them as well. So those are some of the things that are still in place for individuals when it comes to long-term care eligibility for Medicaid. So what's my takeaway from all of these changes with Medicaid? Well, I would say don't panic when you hear that Medicaid is changing. Ask, what rule are you talking about? Because Medicaid is such a huge program, and rules that may affect one group of Medicaid recipients may be totally different requirements and rules for individuals that are seeking long-term care benefits through Medicaid. And now we'll have additional changes that are taking place over the next couple of years. But here are some of the things that you can do right now. Medicaid notices may explain renewal dates, documents that may be needed, or new eligibility requirements. Make sure your state Medicaid agency has your current address, phone number, email, and other contact information. Keep records of work hours, school enrollment, asset information, bank information, along with any other documentation that you may need to show exemptions for the upcoming eligibility changes. If you have a health condition, disability, a caregiver role, pregnancy, check to see if there are any exemptions. Missing a notice or a renewal form could put your coverage at risk, even if you are still eligible. If nursing home care, or community-based care waiver is involved, make sure that you ask questions regarding that eligibility, such as the asset limitations, the income limitations. Also ask if there is a state recovery and if there are protections for the spouse and certain children. So, if you're planning long term care for yourself or for another family member, make sure you know how the rules work. Make sure you understand that those rules vary from state to state, and make sure that you keep up with the changes that are about to occur in Medicaid eligibility. And if you are also looking at moving assets or transferring assets, make sure that you speak with a qualified elder law professional or another professional regarding Medicaid. Because in all cases, and even with this, your money always matters.